Hey everybody! Today I've got a really interesting request from Galactic Victoria who wants to know how do we make a really addicting clicker like a cookie clicker? I know she didn't say it word for word like that, but let's be honest, Galactic, I know exactly what you're talking about. And so what we're going to do today is we're going to build some fun stuff. Let's see, if we go to the food items, does there happen to be a cookie in here? Okay, apple clicker. We're going to do apple clicker. You press the apple button and it's going to cause you to get a point. So to create a button that you can click that looks like an apple, find the position that you want and then place your cube object, select the cube, select the apple, deselect the cube, stretch, flatten it out and group. And that didn't work. We're going to undo, try this again. First of all, we're going to ungroup this object. Now select this cube. So what we're doing is a perspective skewing. So I've got this selected in such a way that when I stretch it, it skews it. And now we've got this really nice flat apple. And now we can group it together and it keeps that button or that look. And now I can take this apple shape, skew it down and press it on our button. So there we go. That is how we make the apple clicker minigame. And yes, this is probably going to be the most addicting thing you've ever done, especially if you were sitting here with a bunch of people. And that's the idea. So we're going to group that together. I've got our apple button, and then we need a pedestal to put it on. So we're going to build a quick pedestal here. Scale that just a little bit. Undo, scale just a little bit bigger than that. And then snap it right on top of this. Very nice. And then slide down into the ground. We should also check the scale. So I come in as a player. That's a little too small. So let's go and scale it up. There we go. Now we come back in as a player. That's a little bit better. Bop, 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 bop. You can imagine that's not bad. Okay, we'll scale this or slide this down just a hair. And then from the bottom here, I made this too long. So we'll scale that up to right there about. Okay, and then to make this more enticing, we'll make this button an unlit red. So we'll select unlit, select red. That's not enticing. What am I talking about? I want to make this unlit green. Press the green button. Nope, that's not good either. Let's see. Do we have a playful color that's good? A playful pink. There we go. That's nice. And then we're going to grab a solid kind of gray tones. There we go. And kind of make that maybe a little less reflective. So lower the texture and give it this tone. There we go. So you come in, you get this little button and you're like, yes, I want to press the button. Now that is the design portion of this video. The next portion is to pull out the gizmos. Pull out the world's leaderboard gizmo. There we go. So we're going to set this right here so you can compete against your friends head to head. And then we're going to also pull out a trigger gizmo and a script gizmo. So the trigger defines where the player's hand has entered the trigger. So when a player's hand enters this trigger, we will know that something has happened and our script will be able to detect that. And I'll show you how we set that up in just a second. But let's start with our leaderboard real quick. So over here on our leaderboard, we're going to change the number of entries to be 10. So you can see 10 players on this page. Very nice. And then the other thing we want to do is change this to be apples clicked. Apples clicked. It's a weird game, I promise. Now open up your menu, head over here to the systems tab. We're going to need a player persistent variable and we're going to call this clicks. All right, so there we go, got clicks. We're going to go to our leaderboards. We're going to create a new leaderboard and this is going to be called clicks as well. They don't have to have the same name, but they can, so might as well. And there we go, there's clicks. We've got clicks. And then from the drop down over here on our leaderboard, we can now select that clicks. And so now once we start setting player values for this leaderboard, they will automatically populate over here. And so the first thing I want to do is open up our script and we're going to give this a good name and we're going to call this apple trigger. Okay, there's our apple trigger. Now from this trigger here, we can open up the properties panel. If you press and hold forward, it'll bring it to you. We can then drop down and select the apple trigger. You'll note that is enabled by default and it's triggering on players. So now that we've got this set up, we can then go to when world is started. Nope, don't need that. What is happening that we want to be aware of? It is when the trigger is pressed by a player. So under here, under player events, when trigger is entered by player, drag that over here to the left. And what do we want to do? Well, we want to set the player variable and we want to set the leaderboard. This happens on the values tab. So you can grab set player persistent variable, we'll drag that over. You can set world leaderboard variable, so we'll drag that over. And the other thing I'd recommend us do is create a new number variable. It's going to be called current score. And this will allow us to optimize our world just a hair. And the reason this is optimizing is because we need this value both here and here. Both of these value inputs are the same. So we can drag current score into here and here. And then back here on our values tab, bring set to and place it above both of these. So we'll go ahead and grab set current score. And what are we setting it to? Well, we'll get to that in just a moment. Now from these drop downs, we can change these to clicks. So this is setting the clicks player persistent variable to current score for that player. You can drop down and select clicks from here. And the player is this one. So we'll just drag this player into those two spots. We are not forcing it. What forcing would do is if you were subtracting a value, it would reset it back to whatever value you put in here. What it does by default is it says the score must be higher for a leaderboard to work. The score must be higher. And in our case, it is always higher because their current score is always going up. So when trigger is entered by player, set current score to, and what are we going to set it to? We are going to set it to be +1. So we need to grab the plus symbol from our operators tab. So we take current score, put it in the A slot. Back on our values tab, you're going to find a number input near the bottom. You can drag that over, fill it out with a number 1, and now it will increase by 1 every time you press that button, and it will do that. Although I've just realized you don't actually take current score. Sorry, delete that. The score that we're going to be setting is actually from the top of the values tab. You're going to find get player persistent variable, put that into the A slot, and the player persistent variable we're getting is the clicks value, and we can drag player into there, and voila, we are done. All we do is try it out. So make sure the world is started. Script tab, it is. I like to stop and play it again. Now we'll go and make this fun. And imagine I had friends. I know, please hold your applause. I can imagine I had friends. So if we had somebody here with us, we could play with our imaginary friend, and we can come over here and press this button like crazy, and you'll see my score starts going up on the leaderboard, and I'm just going insane. Oh my gosh, look at that. I'm already at like 50. If I had to take a guess, there's a bug. Okay, it did stop. Okay, 121. I'm going to drop my hand in one time. It did go up by 1. Maybe I really did go that many times. It's a thin trigger. So if you like go in up, it should give me 2. So yeah, it did give me 2. So maybe I did actually. That's crazy. It just took a long time to count. But yeah, so you can see if you do this really fast, you can get the high score in the apples clicked minigame and break your wrist. So congratulations, you've just learned how to build your first addictive Horizon Worlds minigame. Try to make it better. So like, if we wanted to make this better, the way to make it better is to open up your menu, go to the sounds effects, and pull up a good sound. We need a really good clicky, it's gotta be short. Yeah, that's it right there. And so I kind of like this one better. Okay, so get that sound effect. We also need a visual effect. So we're gonna grab a particle effect, and I recently saw a new one. Is this actually real? Oh, it's not actually here. So somebody was showing me this. It must be in one of the asset worlds. I don't know where it is. But anyway, we're going to use the magic build up right there. Nice. So every time you press this button, it's going to do these two things, which makes it so much more fun and rewarding. And we'll give it a little bit of distance. You can kind of hear it, but it's also not super annoying. There we go. Nice. And now we're going to drag this right to here. We're going to drag this over, and we need to create object variables for this. So under our trigger, under our script, we're going to create new object variables, and we're just going to give these simple names like SFX for sound effects and VFX for visual effects, VFX. And we do need to tie them in. So I'm going to go do that first. And so we'll open up this trigger, open up the sound effect, drag that down into sound effect. That's the bottom one. There we go. Close that. Open up the visual effect, drag that down into the visual effect. Nice. Okay. And now I can position these in the center because we want these to be nice and centered here. Good enough. And like that, we have centered them. They're not pretty, but it does work. So functional. Now back in our script, when the trigger is entered by the player, we want to play these sounds. So we go to our actions tab, we'll scroll down and grab a play sound. We'll also grab a play visual effect, and then we'll go and drag those into their respective slots. Fantastic. Back over here under actions, there's a new thing I've been wanting to play with, set sound pitch. So we're going to go and change the sound pitch to be a random number with decimals to kind of give us something a little bit more interesting to play with. So I'll go with -0.5 and +0.5, which I feel like might be too much, but we'll find out in just a second. Make sure to duplicate the sound effects up to the self slot of that code block, and go ahead to script, stop, and hit play. There we go. Here goes nothing. Oh, look at that. Nice. That's actually pretty good, you know? It's a lot more fun now. Galactic, I'm already addicted. Why did you do this to me? We're gonna have to make this into an asset and share it. The big trick with this type of stuff is leaderboards and player variables don't transfer as assets. So it's a little bit more complicated to get set up if you don't. So it might actually be easier just to follow along with the tutorial than trying to use this as an asset. But in any case, I will be making an asset out of this and potentially sharing it. So here we go, asset. We'll call this Apple Clicker.